All right, everybody. I suspect that we're going to have people come later or they're going to see the post recording. In either condition, either way, we're moving along. We're going to record this right now, and then people will be able to listen to it in their free time. But in any case, thank you guys for coming out that are here. Crypto Haven, thank you for coming out, or Crypto Heaven. Um, you know what? The title is Are You at Where You Want to Be? But then I edited it to Are You at Where You Want to Be in 2023? And there's a whole heck of a lot of people that are not there. There are people that have been not there year after year after year, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, and they haven't been there for the last 5 years. They haven't been there for the last 10. They haven't been there for the last 19, 20, 30 years of their life. They have not been where they want to be. But let's look at it from a slightly different perspective, not just where you want to be. Are you at where you should be? Right? That's the whole thing. Are you at where you should be? Where you think you should be? If you think that are you living, are you if you think that the situation that you're in is where you should be, hey, you know what? If you got a little plot of land, little apartment or house, uh, the shoes that you have on your feet, if you think that's okay and that's your lot of life, hey, you know what? Go ahead. If you think that the dating situation that you're in, whether you're married or not, is where you should be, okay, there you go. But what if you think that you should have better than what's on your feet? That you should have better than where you're living? That you should have better than who or who you're not dating? If you're like where many people are, I would dare say most, where many people are at right now. There's so many people that they've lived 40, 50, 60, 70 years on this planet. And you would have sworn they were still in their 20s and early 30s. You swear that this person is 45, 65 years old, that they are straight out of high school or college, because there's no way that they could be at this level as where they are just starting out, that ignorant of the world, that behind, that defeated. And yet they're over here gaslighting you that I'm where I should be. So many people hide behind religion and they say, well, it's in God's hands. God works in mysterious ways. Where if they read their own text in various religions, they will see that it's not that God did or didn't do anything in their lives, because it clearly says, at least the major ones I can think of, especially uh, certain ones, it doesn't say that God's involved at all right now. And yet they say God works in mysterious ways. That's their way of justifying their failure. See, when you meet a failure, that person is going to be vague. They're going to be non-specific. They're going to say, when you ask them something concrete, something that needs a tangible number, something that you can measure, they're going to respond back with words. They're going to respond back with things that are so vague. Then you're going to look at where they're at, what they've done. They're going to say, all right, I understand you could fall back for 3 months, 6 months, a year. You know what? If it gets really bad, and this is really stretching it, 2 years. Okay. But you're telling me 5, 20 years, 40 years down the line, you're still with those same issues that you had before, that you didn't figure out, that you wanted to go through, I don't know, new sets of problems. You got the same old problems that you were before. It's not that your life was boom and bust, it was bust and boom. See, you got more bust and boom. You notice that, and we're going to bring this to crypto for just a second, the stock market and crypto for just a second. Have you ever noticed that the chart seems to be down more than it's up? Now, technically speaking, when I've looked at crypto, it's technically up more than it's down, depending on the perspective that you're looking at. Because if you say, okay, well, if we go from back when Bitcoin first came out, you didn't enter Bitcoin when it first came out. That's irrelevant to you. Just like saying, well, when the U.S. economy first started, if I had $1 back then your dollar would be worth less. Well, if I had gold, then you didn't. Your family didn't pass it down to you, sir. Well, back if my family gave me the naira and then they gave me some land. Yeah, some of you actually do have land, and that same land you're gonna have, you're not gonna cultivate it. You're not gonna grow it. It's just gonna sit there, and you would have failed to continue growing. They gave you something more than many other people have, and then you do nothing but keep it the same. Remember the in the Bible they had the king that was talking to the three people with their talents. You had one with one talent, and then you had one with, what was it, 7, and then another one like 12 or something like that. But they had different talents. The one with one talent, aka gold, because I think that's what that was. Like, you could literally use it as talents, your abilities. That person, they say, I give you 1 year. Let's see what you could do with 1 year. The one with one talent buried it in the ground, was so scared to lose it, he buried it in the ground. The other two, they grew it. And of course, the one that had the most actually grew the most. I don't know if it was by percentage, but that person, raw data, like if they had 12, then they winded up with like 19 because they got an extra 7, and the one with 7 got an extra 3. Okay, great. Now, I know those aren't the exact numbers, but the one with the biggest amount of talents actually grew the raw data. I think percentage wise, it was actually the one that was in between. But the moral of that story is, hey, look, when they came to the king and said, hey, what did you do after 1 year? And they said, the one with the one talent buried it in the ground because he was too scared of losing it. You know, so many people fail because they didn't even start. So they said, well, I didn't fail. Actually, you did fail. Because if you're not growing, what are you doing? You're receding. You're dying. If you're not living, you're dying. If you're not trying, you say, I'm not failing. Actually, you are failing. You don't try, you fail. Let's say that it starts a race. You didn't even take a step. Well, you see, I couldn't fail because I didn't take the first step. Yet it tells you, the people with the talents, hey, how you doing? If you guys want to be unmuted when you join, you could just request. But it took the king talk to the 3 people with talents. The one with one talent, he said, take that freaking stuff from him. He didn't even use it. He was so scared to use his talent. He was so afraid of failing that he said, all right, I'm just going to bury it and hide behind my legs. So he took it from him. The other 2 grew it. He congratulated, gave them more. Yet you have so many people that hide behind this so-called, oh, God works in mysterious ways. I'm going to pray about it. See, that whole opening section that I just did right there was about that vague person. like again, you ask them for concrete information, they get real vague. They get real vague. And yeah, at the beginning of this year, because of things I've already gone over, don't need to go over it again, it was real tough for me. I was given dates, had to push it back. Given dates, had to push it back. Then I said, you know what? Let me not worry about it. I got you. That had to keep, going there. Then I turned around. This had to be one of my best years right now. Just from the end of October to right now. That went crazy. Because and funny enough, I sat June when everything was really hitting the fan. In June, I said by December, I have this goal. I said in 1 month, we're going to do 57,000 US dollars. I fell a little short from that, actually. But gosh darn, if I didn't get close to it, if I didn't push myself there, and to me, I said that's still not enough because I need to do it. And I said by December of this year, that was the whole thing. I said, I'm going to turn myself freaking around. But it's going to take time. I can't just snap a finger because this ain't fairy tale land. And I didn't need a whole, extra 2 years or something. I said, I'm doing this now. But again, what we see going into next year is what you did this year. That's what's happening. And what you did the year before, and likely what you did the year before. That's what the results of every one of our years. Yeah, I had an emergency situation that, it doesn't happen that often. But because of that, now I got my stuff spread out here, backup plan on backup plan. Even somebody asked me before, hey, you'll be in Kenya, Nigeria, and other places in Asia. And isn't having 10 generators too much? You only need one. Yeah, I don't know. I need a backup because of what happened. I am super redundant. 10 generators, 5 battery backups, just in case. I need a backup on the backup. Who knows? Knowing the stuff that's happened to me in my life, the first generator will break. The second one will break too. So I need to be redundant. Then I need battery backups because I need to keep on trading. I need to keep on doing this. So guys, I need to tell y'all this. Are you at where you want to be? Because you can let yourself recede, or you can say, this is where I should be. This is where I'm supposed to be. As in, that's where you aspire to be. See, where you aspire to be is where you think you're supposed to be. Then you got to look at the gap between where you aspire to be and where you are right now and see if those two things match up. And if they don't, you got two choices. You could be like one of these old folks around the freaking planet. All these 50 and ups. And they have destroyed countries as politicians, destroyed countries as voting because they don't change. They get stuck in their ways. And then they can stay behind where they're imparting information on us and they're saying, hey, I'm here because I wanted to be here. And they're just gaslighting us. Or we can do the other thing and say, you know what? I'm not where I should be right now. And when you start to do that, you're going to start to say, all right, what do I got to do? Because that's your drive right there. What you got to do. Not what you think you want to do. Remember, I said where you should be. Right? Not where you want to be. Where you should be. See, that's a difference. Anybody can want anything. I want the temperature to change. I want to lose weight. I want to gain some weight. I want to get stronger. I want to get faster. Do you think you should be faster? Do you think you should be doing this? Do you think the weather should be changing and you're going to invent some kind of weather changing machine or some device that you say, hey, it's so hot, but I'm going to walk around and I'm going to be cool. And you work like you got something, like you got a mission in life. That is your life's mission, that you're going out to do that. Because when you start doing that as your life's mission, now you see everybody wants to get in your way. When I say everybody, just mean certain people. They're going to want to get in your way. Because what'll happen is there's going to be people that see the end result and they're going to say, wow, this is easy. You make it look easy. All that blood, sweat, and tears that you put behind the scenes. Now, I think they know that it's not easy. That because you're working so efficiently at some point, they're like, man, this person's talented. And what they're really seeing is the gap between what they're doing and what you're doing. In many cases, there's some people that have talent, like in certain sports, and they still got to work harder than other people. But it's like, hey, you're not going to grow any taller than a basketball team. Yeah, there's going to be a few short people and a few average height individuals, actually. And then they're going to get in. Very, very few. But that's largely going to be based on things that you can't control. But in the realm of everywhere else, you can control that. You could be paralyzed from the neck down and still run a freaking business. There's already people doing that. You still be a genius. Stephen Hawking was. Just by barely moving his fingers. With that unfortunate, debilitating disease he had that took his life early. So, when you decide that this is what you got to do, then you will develop drive, because nobody can motivate you into doing it. Nobody can coerce you into doing something that you should just be doing already. Because I had to have a conversation with a friend of mine. And I was like, hey, if you're talking to your female compatriots, he's married, and they ask him for advice on certain things in life. And him and his wife are talking to them, and then he's like, okay, well, if I were in your shoes, here's what I'm looking for. Gotta have I with a degree and all of these things. And I said, well, I'm surprised you said degree. But here's the thing. I said, it sounds like you're just trying to tell them to find a guy with ambition. Isn't that right? And then he said, well, this person is here and such and such. And I said, nah, the ambition, aka drive, that the person has can't be motivated. Yeah, sure, you can get some similar results, and in short terms, you can get the same. But think of it this way: did I have to? He said something like this. I said, if you have kids and things were just hitting the fan and you just couldn't do X, Y, and Z. I forgot the example I gave him, but it's just like things were just turning down. He said, if I had to, I'm getting 8 jobs to take care of my family. And I said, wait a minute. So job 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 don't work. You said we need to get an eighth job, you and your wife. I said, yeah. See, I didn't have to that was his immediate response, his immediate answer. And knowing him, I believe him. He's seemingly chill. He's seemingly like, hey, I don't desire to be these high up positions or whatever. And then he still kind of goes up and he gets like he got promoted and everything like that, which is very interesting because it seems like he doesn't want something and then he takes his time. So for me, it goes too slow, but for him, he's going through things and it's the paces. But you know what? When he has his mindset on the thing, there's no way people are stopping him, and he's looking at different areas, just like when he trains. That's ambition that he has. Nobody had to do it. But here's the person that has to be motivated, that has to be coerced. I said, okay, what you're telling the women is to look for a guy with ambition. I can see that from a little child, 7, 8, 9 years old. I'm alive long enough now that when I was working in a daycare, helping run a daycare, and seeing the children, I had a suspicion, and now it's confirmed. Here's now what, uh 12 years later, 10 and 12 years later, it's now been confirmed. I can see those children. I can then see the kids that I coached at high school 10 and 12 years later and 8 years later. I'm saying, oh, and the kids that I grew up with that are now adults around my age, I can now see that and say, oh, I did see it back then. My own gut suspicion, and now I know what it's based on, is correct on these people here. It was wrong on these. And then I said, oh, here's the reason why. I said, look, if you get a guy and he's in a similar situation, let's say he came to the same conclusion. It's like somebody racist. Okay, you're not really changing them to be not racist. But if their actions on the outside are the same, hey, at the end of the day, you're like, whatever, it's not a problem. But guess what? Still racist. So let's say that you got a person without drive, because here's what's going to happen. It's going to be expressed somewhere. That valve is going to get loose somewhere. If you change the laws to make it very, very uncomfortable for these people to be racist, they might just not do it. Because they're like, man, I'm facing capital punishment. I'm facing jail time. I'm facing all of this. So I'm not going to do things that, like the mob crowd thing that happened before. Okay, great. But it's coming out somewhere. So here's the thing. If that person's not really motivated, let's say that the wife is telling them, hey, we need to get 8 jobs. You only got 1 right now. I took up a job. I wasn't working at first as hard. I was part-time. Now I'm full-time and I'm working a job and a half now. Okay. And she's got to debate and argue and pull and try to do whatever she can to get this guy, motivate him to do it. Let's say he eventually does it. How much time she had to put into that. Yet the guy that had the drive, you didn't really have to do that. You're like, hey, guy with drive, guy with ambition. Hey, what are we doing right now? That's what she's going to ask him. What are we doing right now? He said, I got this. The future might not be clear. He said, the immediate may not be clear. And there's a lot of chaos going on, but this is the direction we're going. We got a little pullback, but hey, nothing to really worry about at the end of the day, because we're going here. She didn't have to debate and argue with him about that. Now, she might say, hey, we disagree upon, hey, here's the methodology. And then he says, all right, you disagree. What you think? Well, I don't know. Okay, then. Well, I got the plan. You don't know. You're thinking about it while you thinking I'm going. And this is where we're going. So you can sit there or you can come together with me. And that's what you're doing. You're coming together with me. Are you at where you want to be in 2023? 2024 is knocking at the door. Literally. We only got a few hours left. And by the time you're listening to this, it probably is 2024. Now let's take it where you are that person that's being there. You are on your journey there. And we can see that you have drive. We can see that that ambition is inside you. Nobody got to motivate you. You got a chip on your shoulder. You got all of the necessary mindsets. You're out here with that serious look on you. People can look at you and say, wow, he intimidates me. Wow, she is very focused. She is very driven. Something about them. They are going places. And man, yeah, she's going to be driven. And one of the worst things you can do is try to then get the woman you're interested in to not be driven. Because if you're a driven man, you would think you want a driven woman. Now, there's a difference. If the woman is too ambitious, then you wouldn't be too compatible. The reason being is because she's not complimenting you. She's on a whole different journey. So two people cannot be steering the ship at the same time. So if the woman is too ambitious, because to be a leader, you got to be better than the people you're leading, which means you got to be better than where that woman is. And if she's thinking, hey, I need to be better than him, that's not compatible right there. Because if the gap isn't apparent, that you are like, hey, I see what you're doing, you're driven, but I'm better, and both of us are going on this pathway here, and she can see that gap and say, wow, I'm better off going with this direction where he's going, still driven in my direction that I want to go. He's enhancing that while I'm enhancing him. Then it's not going to really work. But the worst thing you could try to do is see that woman that's ambitious, that's driven, not the two, not the one that's too ambitious, like the one I just said that wouldn't be compatible. I'm talking about the driven and ambitious woman. And you say, hey, I'm getting all my stuff straight. Matter of fact, I got it straight. You get there one day and you say, hey, look, I need you to stay at home. Huh? What kind of warped kind of thing is that? No, you don't take that woman that's driven and ambitious and then say, hey, stay at home. Or you don't do these things, as in you can't do them. No. She's gonna be driven and ambitious, and then she's gonna enhance what you're doing. So if you're there and she is gonna change direction, she could just be driven and ambitious in what you're doing. Or if you see fit, because you both have made that decision, you see that she's driven and ambitious, as long as it's not cutting at you, because anybody cutting at you is stopping you from the direction that you're going. And that's not going to be good. Again, two people can't steer the ship. So let's just say, getting back to the individual, you're ambitious. You're going to see a bunch of snakes slithering up beside you. They're going to come up and they're going to be wolves in sheep's clothing. Because you see, there are so many people that get stabbed in the back. You think you get stabbed in the back if you knew somebody was about to stab you in the back? No, you just might say, hey, I need to work business with them. I know they're really bogus, but you're not going to let them get close enough to be able to stab you in the back. You're not going to give them the leeway where they could get so close as to touch your heart. You're not, because you see them for what they are. They're going to have to get you from a distance and snipe you, but they're not going to be able to come up and say, hey, I'm about to stab you. And then you say, well, okay. No, you're not going to do that. So when you're out there, you're going to see that this person is taking away from you. They're not adding to you. They're not edifying you. They are leeching off of you. Let me say that again. They're not adding or edifying you. They are leeching off of you. They are sucking you dry. That's what they're doing. Where every turn you're looking and saying, hey, I'm going over here and I'm going directions. And they're saying, hey, I need you to, quote, help me. Okay, I helped you the last time. Now I need to help you again. Yes, okay, I helped you again and again and again and again. And then you're adding up. You're like, wait a minute, 2023. Dang, looks like 2023, 2022, 2021. What's going on? I'm over here trying to grow, and yet all you're doing is taking away. You're not helping me do that. And so if that person is added to you, that person shouldn't be there. They should be eliminated. They should not be there. That's what that is. It might come with a smile on your face, but they got a hatchet on your back. And many of you, it's very hard for you to eliminate those people out of your lives because they're your family. Again, they're your family. Spike Lee said, parents are the biggest dream killers. When you start doing stuff, they start asking, where are you going? AKA, Don't you step too fast. Don't you go too fast. They're asking, where you going? All in your business. Not as a way to enhance what you're doing. They want to know so then they could talk your freaking ear off. And if you keep talking to them, you're going to be standing there 6 hours past. There's your day right there. Because instead of them trying to get something done, they want to talk to you all day. They'll do a little tiny bit of quote progress. It ain't no progress at all. This treadmill of life is going faster and faster as you get older. This time seems to go faster, right? And yet they say, I'm going to talk for 6 hours, do something for 1 or 2, and then struggle. Because this is how they do it. Just like many people go to college and they cram and they cram and they cram last minute instead of doing a little studying here. Or better yet, they're already doing their so called cramming the entire freaking time. So by the time test comes, it's like, oh, I don't even really need to do what you guys are doing. You guys are cramming last week, last 2 weeks, doing all of this and saying it's a struggle. Whereas you don't even know how to do that. You don't know how to study for a test. You don't know how to accumulate knowledge. So when you're doing that in college, you then take it over to the real world. You get that simulated environment where you were doing that bad. You take it over to the real world. So therefore, you think that's normal. So you're trying to get yourself together. You got your drive and ambition, but you're operating as if you don't have it because you're allowing the people to then come into your life and take away from you. These people are sucking your blood dry, and some of them are going to stab you in the back, and boom, there you go. That's the difference, the gap between where you gotta be and where you are. And in some ways, you say, hey, I got help by these people. Great. You get on your feet and you keep it moving forward. Anything you got to pay back, pay it forward, and go on. You don't stay there. It's like saying, hey, let's be on training wheels for the rest of our lives. Do you ride training wheels on a bicycle just because you said, hey, I had training wheels? Do you keep using the driving instructor your entire life when you're learning to drive a car? Do you keep that teacher around to teach you subjects and you didn't think on your own to say, hey, I need to start researching on my own and I need to start improving techniques? Whereas like, hey, the master used to be a student themselves. How about I become a master in my own right too? How come I can't specialize in the area? No, this person's always teaching me. So you're out there, everybody's cramming for the test. Most of these people are cramming for the test. And I can tell you from personal experience, I didn't have to cram for a freaking test. I didn't even have to study the last minute. Just like, huh? I'll glaze over some stuff, just look at it quickly, and then I'm like, oh, okay, guys, cool. I had a couple of study sessions with people, and those winded up just being people babbling and talking. And then they got for like a few hours where they would not do that, but really, it was just a bunch of people talking. They'll study, quote, and then get up, talk, study, talk, study, talk. No, you need concentrated, focused effort. But because they did it last minute, they were too busy partying it up. They were too busy doing other stuff that they didn't even develop a system of studying. You didn't develop a system of honing your craft and your skill because all life is a study. You're studying how to do better in your life. We got Chat GPT now. We got different versions of AI. I was about to say so-called AI. We got advanced algorithms. We have all of these things out here. And yet, have you learned how to study to get better? Have you learned how to use the no-code platforms to your advantage? Because before these advanced algorithms and AI and all of that stuff, because some of it's AI and some of it's advanced algorithms, Before all of that, did you even learn how to get to use that to your advantage? Now that that door is open to you and you're aware of it, are you going to study and try to get better? Or are you going to look at it and say, well, I don't know. I can't figure it out. Is your gut reaction when you see something a little bit complicated to say, I don't know? Or are you that person that say, I'll figure it out and I'm working on it now? Because if you're the I'll figure it out and I'm working on it now, eliminate the people that say, hey, I don't like the direction you're going. I don't like the direction you're taking us. And then you say, all right, should we go? Where should we go? Well, oh, no. See, as soon as they say, I don't know, I'll look it up. Like that. I actually meant that. That wasn't just me. I don't know. I'll look it up. Oh, let me search this real quick. You just say in an immediate and swift and decisive response, all right, I'm going here, left, right, straight, back, up, down, wherever, and start moving in that direction immediately. You don't have to say anything else. You don't even have to respond to them. Your actions are your response. And watch the other people around make a decision. Watch how they have to be forced to make an uncomfortable or very comfortable decision. Remember, you got to be better than the people around you, and most people are looking for a leader. They call these politicians leaders. That's just how bad this situation is. They call them politicians. The people that got to go out and beg you to select them, you're calling them your leader now? A leader is somebody that say, I gotta do. That's what's happening. A leader is that type of person. They're not the person that say, hey, please put me in power. I'll promise you this and that and whatever. Yeah, technically, we can't get anywhere on our own. Yeah. But they're not a leader because, by definition, that politician has to cater to people. That's not the leader type. If there's a politician that's a leader, it's very few and far between. But they're not leaders. They're there to represent you, not to lead you. And that's the whole messed up part. Now, they'll advertise that they're leading you and we're leading the nation here. No, they're supposed to represent you. And most people are looking for leaders so bad, they'll put false leadership on somebody that isn't qualified to be their leader. So, since most people are looking for leaders, it should be rather simple and easy for you to come out ahead of the pack. Are you at where you want to be in 2023? Are you even leading your own life? How are you going to lead somebody else if you aren't leading the direction where you're going? Yeah, you may not be where you're at, but there's many people in this group that are working toward it right now. I got to say, I speak to so many of you in the group. There's so many people right now that are working on their way toward that leadership, toward where they want to be. There's a few that are there already, and now they've gotten new ambitions, new where I got to be, new places where they got to be because they've already reached them. You can have a temporary setback. Nobody's faulting you for that. But if this start lasting 2, 3, 5, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, that's your life. That's not a temporary setback of 3, 6, or 12 months. Again, let me go back to that example with the charts. If you look at the chart, you will notice that people think their life is boom most of the time with a couple of setbacks and a bust. Whereas actually most of their life is a depression, it's going down. Because notice, if you look at it from one way, since the mainstream media will not declare, and they're not going to declare, from my perspective, they're not going to declare a all-time a bull market for crypto until Bitcoin hits a new all-time high. So I think they got a point there, because on the one hand, if we enter at the low or any time below the all-time high and it's higher than what it is, we could say at that perspective, from our perspective, we're in an uptrend. Great. Here's the thing. At any given time in life, because think of every new market cycle as the new standard, and that high was the new standard of inflation, because that's kind of what that's representing. That is inflation. So now that the inflation is going up and you stayed at the same spot you were at, so you're like, hey, I'm going up, because the Naira amount, the shilling amount, the rand amount, the dollar amount, the euro amount in my bank seems to be higher than where it was, except inflation ate your ass up. And so you actually got less buying power while you have more literal currency in your bank. You got less buying power than before. So therefore, you are failing because you didn't grow. You just stayed in the same spot. You were satisfied with what you had. And you said, well, at least I'm not them people. You compare yourself to people even worse than yourself. So therefore, you delude yourself to say you're succeeding. No, you're not. You're failing. You're just doing mental gymnastics saying that you are succeeding. Because you know where you gotta be, and you said, I failed. I don't want to work that hard. I don't want to push after that desire and lose sleep. Become one of them old Negroes that just gave up and make excuses and justify everything. They got an excuse for everything. It's always somebody else's fault. So since you didn't meet the new all-time high, the new inflation area, you didn't break that all-time high. Think of the high as the inflation, and the lows anytime below that. That is how most people are. They think they're going through temporary downtrends and their life is an uptrend, because they delude themselves all the time, because they're trying to motivate themselves. They don't face reality at where it is. They face this delusion of where, oh, I got to feel good. So they spend their lives struggling and feeling negative while trying to tell themselves, I feel good. I feel good. I feel good, with the chant over and over and over. So since you're through thinking you're through a temporary bust and your life is a boom, actually your life is a bust with temporary short-term booms. You notice the bull market, if you go by breaking the all-time high, doesn't really last that long. See, in crypto, if you look at the Bitcoin chart, I'm not going to bring it up on the screen, but if you look at the Bitcoin chart, you could go to TradingView to look at that. You could go to different charts, and you go to the monthly. It is 1 year down, 3 years up. But when you really think about it, it's actually, from what we're looking at, since it didn't break the all-time high, it's about 3 years down and about a couple of months or a year up. And in some rare case, it might be a year and a half up too. But if you say, hey, that new, from the time it breaks the old all-time high to the new all-time high, and then it falls down again, because that's where inflation is. When it's going to that new all-time high after it breaks the old one, that's the inflation. That's the rub right there. That's only a few months to about a year or so. And the rest of the time is down. People's lives are like that, except even worse. Because remember, I've said it time and time again. The market could go up and you could be losing money. So the market can literally be going up. Job opportunities going left and right. There was never a better time than the last 10 or 20 years to be doing something. And I remember I heard Jason Black said the biggest failure is the man making 100,000 that should be making $10 million. You got a bunch of those people out there, and that's gonna be you. If you keep those people around you, you keep those people around you that should not be there. That's gonna be you. That just say, hey, I got a plot of land and a house. And that's it. Yeah, cool. On one perspective, you say, hey, I'm doing better than other people. They don't even have that. Okay, great. Congratulations. You did what we expected you to do. Everybody else failing so bad is not an excuse for you to say, hey, you did the bare minimum. Congratulations, you did the bare minimum. Okay, were you supposed to get a cookie? See, you congratulate children for doing things because you're trying to motivate them, get them inspired of the world. They didn't ask to be here, so your job is to inspire them. And help them, put them on some pathway that they can develop and learn their own drive. That's it. Because you can't give them the drive that they have. You can't force anybody to have drive. But what you can do is put them in situations that will facilitate their drive to be easier to develop. But we're not going to hand clap you on things you should already be able to do. You're an adult. You've been here. You said, hey, I was a child once. Yeah, many of these adults are just grown up ass children. Are you at where you want to be in 2023? Because if you're falling in any of these pitfalls here and you're on your way, like I said, many of you are on your way there. You are on your way there. Problem, you're going to let yourself get stabbed in the back because you got friends and family members that are going to hold your ass back. They're all in your business. They're all asking where you're going. They want to know all of these things. And once they find out, they need a handout. They don't have a track record of saying, hey, you gave them some money, they make that thing grow. They got a track record of you gave them some money, and then you gave them some more money, and then you gave them some more money. You don't see any of that stuff back. You don't see any of it paid forward. If it doesn't come back to you, you don't even see it paid forward. You just see them through a life of struggle and mishap after mishap. Then they tell you, I'm doing good. If you point it out, they get angry at you for their failure because you had the audacity to say, hey, you know what? I noticed some things about you. But yet you're over there with them. They're not going to change. You tell them what to do. They're not children anymore. You tell them what to do, and then they either do it or they don't. And yet you're going to keep yourselves around them for what reason? They're not helping. So you got it together. You got yourself on a pathway. You're in your 20s, many of you in this group, and some of you are in your 30s. And you are on that chariot. You're on your pathway to say, hey, that car is next. That house is next. The growth in my bank account 2 times, 3 times, 4x the amount of money I had is next. Where you should be doubling, tripling, quadrupling what you're making because inflation's going up every single year, and that doubles. What is it? Depending on the country, every 4 to 7 years. And in Africa, the inflation rate is even higher. So really, you might be looking at depending on where it is, 2 to 5 years. There's some places I'm thinking of now, it's really going to be closer to the 5, but we're going to say 2 and 5 years. This is in different places in Africa. The inflation rate is crazy. The buying power rate is going down drastically. And you're saying, well, I just want to increase my income by 50%. That ain't going to cut it. Some of y'all in Nigeria, just think of how the Naira has fallen against the US dollar, fallen against other currencies. Forget about the foreign currencies for a second. Think about how little you could buy right now with 100 freaking K. Now think back 5 years ago. It's literally, what, half as strong as it was before. 100K used to be able to do something when your parents were around, and what they leave you. And yet, you're going to be around them and say, hey, let me bail them out. Your uncles and aunties, let me bail them out. They had their chance. It's your time now. You're growing and developing. When you get something, hold on to it. Not, oh, I feel bad. I feel emotional attachment. There's one thing where you do some support. There's another thing where they're leeching. So this message is to you all right here in this section of this video. This is for you that have been developing. You got concrete tangibles. When somebody asks you a question, you say, this is how much money I desire. This is what size house I desire. This is what size plot of land I desire. This is what car I desire. This is what type of woman and children I desire. This is what I desire. That you could tell them exactly, specifically where you're going. Not the, hey, where you want to be. Well, you see, I'm just trying to go to get something and develop my life. What the hell does that mean? That's vague. I'm, quote, developing my life. I'm, quote, elevating. I'm, quote, upgrading. I'm, quote, getting better. That's nothing. That's babble talk. That's what people did in junior high, middle school, secondary school. I know different countries say different things, so I'm going to cover all of this. High school, college, university. That's what they say in school, because to babble and say vague things, because you got, one, your parents, and two, a simulated fake environment where you're not allowed to really fail even when you do fail. Then you get out in life and it kicks your ass. You need to have concrete tangibles, because guess what? Your bills are going to be concrete. So when somebody asks you a question, you're the type, like I said, I'm speaking to the types that got it. You got it all together. You're not there yet, but you damn sure are working toward that right now. Barely getting any sleep. Making the plans and struggling through how to get those plans to work. You're trying stuff, and then you do it again. You adjust, you analyze, you think and strategize. Then you come in out to the battlefield again. That didn't work. Let me try the next one. I see this one is working. Let me keep chipping away at this fortress right here on this side of the wall, because over there it didn't work. They ambushed me. They almost got me. Here's a crack in the wall. Let me keep knocking it and knocking it and knocking it and knocking it and knocking it. And then blam, you got a hole in that fortress and you rushing through. While everybody else, they tried one time and they gave the hell up. Couple people took a step, they gave up. And those types of people are going to be around you. What you doing? How you doing? Where you going? Oh, that's nice. Why don't you talk to me? Hi, how are you? All those people that just message you hi and say nothing else. All those people that got a lot of gimme, a little bit of very little desire. They can't grow what's given to them because they're taking your time. They can't even grow out of the time you give them, the instructions you give them, because now you got the experience and the value, because now you've proven that you can do it. It's not worth teaching them because you already know they're not going to apply it. They just want to waste your freaking time. asking you how to do something, and they're not going to apply it. So since they can't actually stop you, they're just over here with some mental masturbation and asking you how you do it. And if you allow yourself to stoop there to actually spend the time to people you should know you shouldn't spend the time with, but you're emotionally attached to them because they're friends and family, or you come out gullible to the world thinking people should be trusted when they shouldn't be. You are now sitting in the spot from I am working toward it. I got the concrete. I know where I'm going, and I got to do it. I got a chip on my shoulder. I got a mission in life. I'm looking very serious. And then you allow somebody to come in. Hey, I want you to teach me how you did that. I noticed you got faster on the track. Teach me how to do it. They're not even serious. And you're going to let them distract you. Yeah, I understand when you don't know any better, you're going to do it to a couple of people. Now you're a fool because you keep on teaching people that actually aren't going to apply it. And number one, why should you teach them when you had to learn and scrape on your own? The same people you expected to teach you, your parents, didn't teach you a goddamn thing in that direction. Yet you about to stand back and then go out of your way to teach them? Aren't they older than you? Shouldn't they have had more wisdom? Everybody got a weakness, sure. But they didn't give you anything other than they birthed you. Your family didn't do anything other than, well, they got you and they said, here's a roof over your head. That's it. Okay. And yet you're going to stand there and then use that time to teach them? They didn't have the brain and wherewithal to go ahead and the desire to do it on their own. Because what's the difference between somebody smart? And I'm not even talking about the people with mental disabilities, because even some of those people will run circles around some of these people. They are literally medically determined as retarded. I know I instructed some of these kids in a daycare that had that same mental retardation, and yet they were running circles around all the other children because they actually had the desire to learn. I said, you know what? I'm not about to treat this little boy like he's retarded, even though he literally medically was. In all different ways, you could see that he was stunted. I took the time out to instruct this kid. He ran circles around them other children. Only thing he had was he's a little bit slower on the uptake when the information went out, which in the battlefield, that would be tragic. But if he's the strategist in the general, hey, that's what you can have. He will have a certain weakness that he couldn't do himself, yet he surrounds himself with one or two other people that can compensate for that one thing. Yeah, he's good. He's untouchable. Yet, you don't want yourself to fall into that. You got those people around you, so don't do it. And for the people that aren't, you just gave up on yourself. I guess that's where you want that lot in life. But are you where you want to be in 2023? 2024 is knocking at the door right now. And are you going to take that by the... No, never mind. You know what? You ain't going to take it. You're not going to take it. Because right now, 2024 is determined by what you did anyway. What you just did in 2023 and the year before and the year before and likely the year before, that's what's happening now. Because remember, our bodies right now is a representation of what we've been putting in our body for the last months and years. The last 2 and 3 years is what your body looks like right now. You can cram and try to do it. It's not really a healthy way to do it. Same way your body is a representation of how you've been treating it is the same way Your year in 2024 is a representation of how you did 2023, 2022, 2021. Because our brain, our body is remade every 7 years. Certain parts of our bodies, like our muscles, they get remade every few months. Our blood is remade every 1 or 2 days? Our bones take a little bit longer. Our brain is the longest thing, every 7 years. Our bones, 2 and 3 years. So for all intents and purposes, outside of your brain, every 2.5, 3 years, you have a brand new body. And it either is going to, and of course, over time, it's still going to break down. But you got choices on whether to put good food in yourself to make it better and to extend it as far as you can. You got some control over that. So just like in your life, even if your body ain't moving there, we got charts and studies. You can keep getting better at mathematics all the way until your 70s. No freaking excuse on how you can't keep developing your mind. And therefore, an extension, your body and abilities. Your skills can keep improving all the way into their 50s, 60s, and 70s. And yet you got people that have given up on themselves. You got a mass of people in their 30s, and you would think and swear they're 90 years old. You got a mass of people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s already giving up. They're not working until they drop. They're not keep growing until they drop. And if they do, they woke up today, they got a momentary area of motivation. That's not their drive. Don't be fooled. They had 20 years before that to get their stuff together. They didn't. They're going to be intimidated. You right there listening, you are intimidated by that energy if you're one of them folks that decided you wanted to just give up and be satisfied where you're at right now. If you think the shoes you got on your feet, the place you're staying in right now, and everything there is okay for you, and you keep justifying that's okay, I don't know about you, I'm not satisfied. Yeah, I had a pullback back in February, and I'm much better than where I was. I ain't satisfied where I'm at. And when I get to the next spot, all right, here we go. We got a new one. Now, on the one hand, you got it in the Bible where human ambition and desire is just going to keep on growing. Hey, you need to make sure your soul is has your salvation. And while you're here on this planet, you also got your own personal things too, right? So you're going to say, well, I'm fine. I got a car. I'm fine. I got a house. I'm fine. I got this. Okay, great. Big whoop. Isn't that what's expected of you? That's kind of like what's expected. It's like saying, I'm a good parent. Pat me on a freaking back. No, you're supposed to be. The children didn't ask to be here. You're supposed to do the basics and instruct them and give them something. You don't get a pat on the back for what you're expected to do. You don't get a wow, good job. So to end this off, you have where you desire, where you gotta be. Where's that gap between where you are saying, this is where I gotta be, and this is where you are now? And answer that question. Am I where I want to be in 2023? The answer is no. You got a choice. And yeah, sure. If you're not the person with desire right now, you're going to be motivated by my words. You're going to feel good and tingly on the inside saying, yeah, he's speaking to me. I could get myself there. Yeah, I could do it. Then as soon as this video goes off, you're back to where you were, because motivation is temporary. Desire doesn't care whether you are happy or sad. You're going to do it because you feel you gotta do it. For example, God in the Bible don't care whether about our feelings. Our purpose is to worship God, is it not? So whether we are happy worshiping, angry worshiping, sad worshiping, it don't matter. That's the difference between somebody that has a desire and somebody that just has a want. Somebody that has a I gotta do it versus somebody that has a want. If you just want something, you're not gonna do it. As soon as somebody stop watching you and stop the whip on your back and you can't even take it, that's the thing. You see the gap between what you want and then you say, damn, I gotta bleed for that. I'm gonna get whipped on the back. Life is gonna whip my ass. You're gonna see that, and then you're gonna say, yeah, I can't take that pain. I'm gonna try a little. And so I stop at the car I got. I stop at the house I got. I stop at the apartment I got. I stop at and XYZ. And you live and you die and you are alive and you die, but you never really lived. You just have when you were born out of your control and when you die partially out of your control. But in between those little areas, absolutely nothing significant happened. You came and you went and the world wasn't better off, not even the people around you, than where you were. Because we got things today, sure, we may not know who our ancestors were exactly, but there are so many people that actually positively influence that we're using things that some of these people made that we will never know their names. And yet there were a bunch of people that the hell they were born for. You got to question yourself like, okay, this person's here and they just sat out to be born. Well, it's not their choice, but they set out to be alive for that long and nothing happened. They went backwards and that's what they got. Look, everybody's not going to listen to what I'm saying, quite literally listening, but also they're not going to hear this message. So I'm not worried about because even if I give it to everybody, we all know what happens. The truth is uncomfortable. It'll make people angry at me for saying it. See, a lot of you guys are sitting at the holiday, and I'm going to end it off here. A lot of you guys are sitting at the holiday. You're saying you're taking time off. But earlier this year, oh no, I didn't forget and I didn't stop working on it. I said this was day 1, day 2, day 3 of the next 1,827 days, the next 5 years of your life. How many of y'all actually start working on those things and kept at it? Sure, I didn't keep reminding you here, but I shouldn't have to remind you. Are you actually still working on the next 5 years of your life, the 1,827 days, because of the 2 leap year extra days that are in between? Are you working on the next 5 years, which is now? Or did you say, wow, this is real motivating, and you're going to do the new year with the new year, new me type of mindset that, you know what, it's gotten so bad, people don't even say that anymore. That's just how much they gave up. They don't even pretend anymore. They don't pretend that they're changing things in the new year. They just say, you know what? F that. Why am I saying new year, new me? Because I know it's a lie. I'm only going to keep it up for a couple. It used to be they keep it up for a month. They don't even keep it up for a day or two. It's already failed at the start. Talk about failure to launch. Now, me, I don't celebrate holidays. If anything, I will take a day myself. So for me, the new year is just like, okay, that's another year checked off the calendar. This is a progress report time. But this ain't this is the time for me to do it. Because if I do that, now I'm letting something external control my internal desires, my internal motivations, my internal drive. And if I allow that to happen, I have wrestled the control and leadership of my life and put it in somebody else's hands. And that's not the way we're going to go. Not at all. That's not the way we are going to go. If there were other people here, we would, because I already know what crypto is going to say. We already had our own conversation off screen. So if there were other people here, we would ask people if they wanted to say a couple of words. But since they're not here, I'm going to end the video now. I don't know what channel I may put this on. I may put it on both two channels. But if you're listening to this post recording, you got to ask yourself the question that was of this theme and face what potentially is an elephant in the room, that you haven't been doing enough. Whatever you think, you do more. Then when you do more and you think that's enough, you do more. And then when you reach your limit, you break it. And when you reach that limit of that limit, you break that limit. Then you say, let me use somebody else's limit on myself. AKA you get more people to then push you in that direction, because the sum of the total is greater than the sum of the parts. Then you break that limit of other people's limit and keep going. At some point, you're not literally going to be able to physically move how you're moving now. You're not going to be able to do the things that you're doing right now. You're not going to have the energy levels that you got right now. Make the most of it. But even when you don't have that ability to physically move how you're moving now, the energy levels that you have now, guess what? That's not an excuse. That is not a gosh darn excuse for you to stop progressing. You got some of these billionaires still running circles around the rest of the people, and yet they're in their 50s and 60s. Some of them in their 40s, and they're still getting more. They didn't say, all right, I got $1 billion. All right, I got 10. No. And you know who I'm speaking of. All right, I got 50. Nope, I got 100, 200 billion. I'm going for more. When is enough? Who knows? They keep going and they keep expanding. They keep taking those risks. And unfortunately, some of them got a welfare system for them. So, of course, that's why they're going up. So, asterisk mark there. Yet and still, they're going for more. What's your excuse right now? What's your excuse? Oh, I don't have electricity all the time. I don't have internet all the time. All right, develop it. You either develop it or work around it. I don't know when things are going to go in, the network. Develop it. Look at the revolutions in West Africa. You got no damn excuses no more. I heard it from you guys 4 years ago when I was speaking to you guys about that. Well, we got to keep our head down because the government is going to do something to us, and I'm scared. They're going to attack us. Okay, great. And yet they went out and they did it. And some of them have attempted coups on them. And they decided they got protection. They said, we decided now we're going to team up. You attack one of us, you attack all of us. No damn excuses no more. You either are going to do it or you're not. If you're not, you ain't around me. And that's how you have to have the mindset for others. So I leave you off on that. And I'll catch you guys on another either video or in the group.